Important Managerial Functions and Skills continued. Unit 1, Chapter 1, Lesson 1, Part 3. To come back to our functions of management, planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, we see that every role that a manager undertakes is in aid of accomplishing these functions. And these roles are often the expectations that we and organizations have of a manager's behavior, that it must result in the strategic planning of the organization, in the organizing of human and financial resources, in the leading, so the motivation and communication to get things done, and the controlling, checking that we've accomplished the requisite tasks at the acceptable standard. To zoom into the roles of managers, we can use Henry Mintzberg's observations from studying senior managers in a variety of industries. There are three categories. The first is interpersonal. And under interpersonal roles, managers perform the function of being a figurehead, so they have to sign legal documents or interact with visitors, a leader that has to direct and motivate, train and counsel their employees, and a liaison. So they have to maintain links outside and inside the organization to build the reputation of their company. The second category of roles is decisional. So under this, we can see that it's important for managers, even in very large organizations, to behave in an entrepreneurial way. So they always have to think about the future, that innovation that we're talking about, initiating improvements. They also have to handle disturbances. If things go wrong, they have to take corrective action. They are ultimately responsible for allocating the resources, so who in which department is going to get how much of the budget. And they often have to negotiate, representing the interests of their department or company during negotiation instances. The last category of roles is informational. They have to monitor. So they are always paying attention to what's happening in the external environment, looking for and seeking information. They have to disseminate information. So if there is something important that everyone needs to know about in order to be on the same page, they have to take responsibility for that communication so that gossip doesn't flourish. And they have to be the spokesperson. So they have to be the face and the name of the company and represent it to outsiders through speeches and reports. In light of our discussion about Mintzberg, let's consider how the hierarchical level of a manager influences the importance of their leadership or liaison roles. We can see that a supervisory manager at a lower level in the organization has a much greater need for the leadership role. A greater importance is placed on that. But their role of liaison and making those connections within and outside the organization is probably at more of a medium level. We see a much smaller gap between the leader and liaison roles for our middle managers, and we see an inversion of importance once we look at our top managers. Yes, the leader role is incredibly important, but that aspect of the liaison role and providing those links and connections and relationships within and outside the organization takes on a much greater focus. What is quite interesting is that these roles of planning, organizing, leading, and controlling are easy to separate in theory, but in practice, there are no clear boundaries between them. And so managers often don't have the luxury of practicing these as independent parts. You might have, for example, a strategic breakaway to focus on some of the planning, but you won't have a strategic breakaway for the organizing or leading components. Those things are interspersed, and of course, if we realize that in the control phase, for some reason such as economic decline, we are not going to reach our goals, we have to loop back to the start with planning. We might have to downgrade some of our goals and expectations and feed through the rest of the process how that would change organizing and leading in light of these re-articulated goals. So managers do need some time to think and plan how they're going to approach the market. Let's just pause a minute to think about how these 10 roles identified by Mintzberg look in different kinds of companies or industries. In small businesses, for example, do we use the same 10 roles? Do we expect the same things from managers? And the answer is yes, but to different extents. So, of course, inadequate management skills is quite a large threat in any business, but specifically in small businesses with less resources for training or hiring the appropriate personnel. The roles that they have to focus on might differ quite significantly, and we might see that decisional roles such as the entrepreneur play a much bigger role in a small business. Non-profits also need management talent, and they are also looking at the four functions of management, not with the goal of making a profit as other businesses might be, but with the goal of using limited resources very effectively and efficiently. So their focus is on keeping the costs low and proving their impact. And they also need the roles. If you think about a non-profit organization, that it's very important for the leader to be a spokesperson and a liaison to maintain those industry networks and contacts for the benefit of their non-profit. We have a lot of good and interesting information about what makes management successful, what skills they need to have, what tasks they need to perform, what roles they need to excel in. But let's take a moment to consider the new world of work and why innovative management is a prerequisite. There are perpetual shifts in the environment. Let's think about the leaps forward in technology, especially related to the fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, as well as machine learning. There are continuously new products and new avenues for businesses to pursue. Globalization and the shift in social values means that country national borders become less pertinent, and the flow of information and skilled personnel and products across these previous boundaries is easier. That obviously changes what's possible and also what's challenging. This so-called new world of work is different in some meaningful ways. And we could say the task of management is similar, even though the context is slightly different. When I think about the COVID-19 lockdowns and all the work from home trends that occurred as a result, we could say, people still had to work, but they had to use technology in order to mediate that day-to-day work. And there is some truth in that. But consider how managing a team and keeping them motivated is different when you are not located with that team and can't see that someone is in need of a bit of encouragement or assistance simply because you're working from different locations. So these challenges from the new world of work and opportunities mean that flexibility is required in this complex world of work and an attitude towards innovation and continuous improvement, not just in products and services, but indeed in the very skills of managers. The role of managers is quite complex and it's not stagnant. So you will see that there has been a shift from the traditional approach to managing an organization to what is necessary today, new and innovative competencies. And we see this change in several ways. If you look at how work was overseen in the past, a manager was very much the person in control. And while this is still an important function of management, the role of the manager today is very much to enable the performance of their teams. So another big change is it's not just about supervising individuals, but indeed because of the size of organizations and the nature of work, the importance and focus is now on leading teams, where organizations often used to look at their place in their industry as conflict and competition with competitors. There's much more of a sense of conversation and collaboration. We see this in very interesting ways in the automobile industry, where co-opetition has become the norm. In terms of leadership, it's gone from a very dictatorial, autocratic style to a focus on empowering the people that report to the manager so that they can grow and deliver ultimate value to the organization. And then, perhaps most challenging, instead of maintaining stability and the way that things have always been done, the role of the manager today is very much to assist the organization to be ready for change, to mobilize them, to take advantage of opportunities. While we can already detect some of the shifts that is required to make managers of the future successful, there are some competencies that we can see a shift in focus for. Greater collaboration is going to be necessary. And so the old idea of command and control, also known more as the carrot and stick approach to management, leadership and motivation, is shifting to a greater extent of collaboration across different functions in the organization, between different levels, and even incorporating the organization's customers, perhaps even competitors, as co-creators of value. It means that a totally different attitude towards experimenting, trying, failing, and bootstrapping is necessary. Once again, we see that the value of being a learning organization is key, although what we're learning changes as time marches on and artificial intelligence and machine learning take on a greater focus. Knowledge management and information sharing, although we've seen these hinted at in Mintzberg's roles, we can see that the ability to detect what information is valuable, how much attention to pay to trends, how to pass on that knowledge to different players in the organization is certainly becoming increasingly important. While there are many challenges and certainly many changes, it is undoubtedly an exciting time to be in management and to study the art and practice of management.